From profound loss to a successful real estate career, there won't be a dry eye in today's episode when we hear from Sydney Hathaway, a luxury real estate agent in Oklahoma City. Sydney managed to become a finalist for RAS Media's Rookie of the Year contest and is a mentor to other first-year agents while leading a state-level advisory committee for real estate agents. She shares her experiences and some amazing tips for anyone looking for a career in real estate. So don't miss this highly motivational episode.
Welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, where we dive into real stories, big wins, and early lessons learned from highly successful rookie real estate agents and brokers. This is the series where we explore how real estate transforms lives, one home at a time, by sitting down each week with a new agent or broker who has found incredible success in their first year. Your hosts are instructors and leaders at Colibri Real Estate School, one of the largest real estate educators in the nation, where we focus on helping people like you get started or find continued success in their careers.
Hello and welcome to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission, brought to you by Colibri Real Estate. I'm your host, Tina Lapp. I've been in real estate education for over 30 years and was licensed in 2002. My passion is helping individuals enter and thrive in their careers. I'm here with my co-host, Andrew. Andrew, will you introduce yourself?
Hey, welcome. I'm Andrew Robinson. I am also at Colibri Real Estate, and we are excited that you can join us today.
We are here today with Sydney Hathaway. Sydney, will you take a moment to introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what company you're with?
Yeah, so my name is Sydney Hathaway, and I'm a realtor in the Oklahoma City metro area. And I've been licensed for 2 years, all 2 of them with eXp Realty.
That is awesome. And Sydney, what were you doing before you came into real estate?
Yeah, so I did a little bit of everything. It's kind of a running joke that I'm a jack of all trades. I've done, retail, I've done food industry, I have done, I actually, before I found the world of real estate, I was a pre-law student. I had taken my LSAT. I was going to go to law school. And after a couple internships, I was like, I'm not sure that this is for me. So in the meantime of trying to find some work, I was an assistant for a realtor who is a large team lead for a brokerage in South Oklahoma City. And she was like, I just see so much potential in you. I'm going to bring you in the office full time as a transaction coordinator. And from there, moved to a mom and pop brokerage in Edmond, doing listing coordination for the broker in the office and compliance and all that kind of stuff. And he basically just said, you're way too good to sit behind a desk all the time. So I want you to get your real estate license. And I did. And we all made the move over to eXp. So at that point, I was like, well, time to jump off the ledge and just dive right in and see if I got it. So
That's awesome. So it sort of fell in your lap a little bit.
it really did.
Yeah.
And I never anticipated going into real estate or, becoming a full-time agent. But my mom has worked in pharmaceutical sales my entire life. And she always joked with me, even when I was a pre-law student, she was like, sales is in your blood. I don't know why you're going to law school.
Why fight it? Why fight it?
Yeah, exactly. Now, here I am. So, they always say your mom's always right. And mine was. So,
Yeah. That's right. So it sounds like your mom was a bit of your inspiration. What else do you think inspired you to pursue sales and real estate? What is it in you that drives you and you enjoy about it?
yeah, so I'm very much a people person. I always have been. Since I was little, I could walk up to anybody and spark a conversation. And so whenever I found real estate, I really, as a TC, transaction coordinator, I enjoyed the contract side. And that was kind of my background in pre-law was, the legal jargon and the compliance and all that kind of stuff. And as I watched, the realtors that I was working for as a transaction coordinator work with the public and the things that they were doing and getting to know the clients and talking to them, I just fell in love with it even more. And really just serving people. This is a people business. And while sometimes that can be one of the most difficult things about it, it's also one of the most fulfilling and rewarding when you hear from a client, we couldn't have done this without you, and we're so grateful for you. And you get to have, all these new relationships and connections after the transaction is finished. So that really drives my passion, is just getting to help and serve others in a capacity that I don't think I would have been able to do in any other career. Buying or selling a home is one of the most expensive investments that you can make. And so
Mm-hmm.
it truly just became about, how can I best serve every single individual that crosses my path?
Well, that
So
totally makes
true.
sense.
Yes, it's beautiful. So tell us a little bit about where you grew up and if you feel that that impacted your decision or sort of your career pathway to move into real estate.
Yeah. So my journey into real estate was actually a little bit unconventional. So I grew up in Edmond, Oklahoma. I was born in Wichita Falls, Texas, but basically grew up in Edmond, and loved the community I grew up in. And I mean, me and 20 million other children happened to live in the same neighborhood. So it was a really fun experience growing up. And I really wasn't, how do I want to say this part? My life was your stereotypical suburban childhood, involved in school, involved in extracurriculars, involved in church, all the things. Especially in the Midwest, church is a staple of our community here in the Bible Belt. So I had a very, I would say, quote unquote, normal upbringing. And then a little bit of tragedy struck going into my senior year of high school. My dad was diagnosed with ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease, and passed away 11 months later. And I truly felt growing up that I had to be perfect. I had to present myself in a perfect way. I had to get the best grades, do all of the things. You would say perfectionism ran in my blood a little bit, still fighting that fight to this day. But as I transitioned into college, I really was fighting and battling heavy grief and just not sure where to turn, what to turn to. And I just completely switched who I was and got a little bit too heavy into drugs and alcohol. And I fought the battle of addiction for 3 years and thought I could stop. I wasn't able to. No amount of help was helping. Nothing was working. And I just was completely hopeless and doing and finding everything I could to numb my grief. Then moved home from college, thought I could get my life back on track. When I wasn't able to, my mom really intervened and just said, this is going to take your life and there's nothing that I can do about it. And that hopelessness that she presented to me really resonated and just changed my mindset of, I'm slowly trying to kill myself is what I'm doing. And so I decided right then and there, I wanted to get help. I went to rehab the next day and I celebrated 6 years sober this year. So how I really stumbled upon real estate was, I was in a very transitional period of my life of trying to get my life back on track. I was just looking for work. And somebody connected me to somebody who connected me to somebody who allowed me to connect with this team lead in the south side of Oklahoma City. So I was really, when I found real estate, trying to discover who I was again. And I wasn't sure who Sydney was anymore. And so when I found real estate, I just found this new purpose of serving others, because I had led such a selfish life the last, 3 years. And I decided, I want to do something different. I want to do something that encourages others to achieve the goal of homeownership. And so I really specialized in my first 2 years with first-time homebuyers. But beyond that, specifically individuals who are in recovery, helping them achieve the goal of homeownership and not having to stay in the stigma of this is the life that I used to lead and this is the life that I have to keep on living once I'm sober. We don't have to go back to the same people, places, and things, and we can, be a part of society and not have to live in shame that that's a part of our stories. And so just being able to really build this business has been such a huge miracle. Honestly, I shouldn't be sitting here talking to you guys on this podcast today. And so I've been able to successfully help 6 individuals who are in recovery become homeowners. And so that really is like the passion behind my business. Well, yes, I'm happy to help anyone buy or sell real estate. Like that is really my niche that I just like get so passionate about. So
Oh my gosh, Sydney, first of all, thank you for being candid and sharing your story, because you're not alone, and I hope you've learned that.
yeah,
And to take control and to accomplish what you've accomplished is humbling. I mean, I truly have chills right now, and could just absolutely congratulations on
thank,
that journey and impacting all these lives. It's just absolutely fantastic.
thank
Yeah,
you.
definitely. Yeah, that's a great story. So you've now gotten a little bit of sobriety. You've recovered from um, your addiction, and you start to work at this real estate agency, and your boss comes to you and says, "Hey, you should be a real estate agent." Um, how'd you go about becoming a real estate agent? How'd you pick a school? Can you walk me through how that went?
Yeah, so I went with the real estate school that pretty much everybody said that, hey, this is where I went. And because I was working full time and like had 4 years of experience under my belt as a TC, I went the online route, which I thoroughly regret. I highly encourage anybody who is wanting to get their real estate license, find a job as a transaction coordinator, because you will be able to tell really fast whether or not you like this industry or not as a TC, and then do an in-person school. And I actually was getting my real estate license during the pandemic, which was a whole mess within itself. And the specific school that I chose, I wouldn't necessarily recommend for somebody else, but I got what I needed. I passed my real estate exam, and I'm here. So I've actually been a really big advocate for, a little bit of a switch up just within the state of Oklahoma as far as the pre-licensing education goes and the standard that real estate schools are held to. I truly feel like your pre-licensing exam, the real estate exam, and your post-licensing exam set you up in the industry, regardless of what brokerage you choose to hang your license at. That is truly the first step that paves the rest of the way.
Oh, that makes sense. So you took an online course then. You didn't have class that you had to go to every day. How did you manage your time? How did you drive through what were some of the challenges you faced?
Yeah. So I mean, I was working full time in a real estate office, and thankfully, if it was a little slow, my broker knew I was working to get my real estate license, and he'd be like, "Hey, go study, go do this, go take a practice exam." And that was nice because if I was stumped on something, I could immediately go to him and go, help me answer this because I'm not sure. So that was very convenient to be in a real estate office while studying, regardless if my broker was there or not. If there was another agent in the office, I could go to them. Another challenge that I faced definitely was time management, just because when you are working, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., and then going home and having your own personal stuff going on, you really have to allocate your time well if you were choosing to do an online course, because there's a lot of people that are working full time when they decide to get their real estate license. So just dedicating that time, setting that time aside, doing it little by little, biting it, bite-sized chunks, get everything that you need, and, just prepare yourself for that exam.
So, Sydney, you got past your state exam.
Yes.
Congratulations, right? The first hurdle. What were your expectations going into your first year?
my first year licensed.
Yes.
So I didn't really, to be completely candid, I didn't have a lot of expectations when I first went in, because I had worked for, a broker who had a brokerage of 40 plus agents and a top team lead out in Southwest Oklahoma City. So I knew I wasn't going to be at that level to start out. All I knew was my sphere of influence is the number one way to start my business. It's free leads. It's people I know. It's people that know me, people I already have a rapport with. So I just picked up the phone and started calling people. And I followed every single ounce of advice my broker gave me. And I treated my real estate business like any other 9-to-5 job that exists. With real estate, a lot of people join this industry because they think it gives them this freedom around their time. And I always say, it doesn't give you freedom, it gives you flexibility. And there's a big difference between the two of those things. So I took that flexibility seriously. And I did open houses on Sunday. And then during the week, I worked on social media content, building up a social media presence. And I sent out letters to every single person I know saying, hey, I just got my real estate license. Here's some facts about the brokerage that I'm with and the other agents that I work with. Here's a business card. Hand signed them, hand wrote the address, slap stamps on them, and just mailed them out. And then as people would text me, or, I'd be like, okay, well, I mailed these out on Thursday. It's Friday. I know they have it. I would pick up the phone and call them and track that communication and just be like, hey, did you get my letter? Just wanted to let you know that I'm now a licensed realtor, and setting up that relationship with the people I know.
That's great, and great advice for sure. I like the comment about the difference between freedom and flexibility, like spot on. So you're here, you're doing this, you're going through all these activities. Any particular memory or experience from your early days that stands out?
Yes. Oh gosh, if I could name them all,
Right?
So my first year in, I actually did a lot better than I was expecting. I was not expecting to do the sales numbers I did, to do the number of transactions that I did within my first year by any means. I thought, oh, maybe I'll sell 1 or 2 houses and, just get my rapport built and, professional standards and get my business automated, all of those things. But I ended up closing 15 transactions as a single agent. And I did $5.7 million in sales. So in Oklahoma, that's pretty good, with our average price point being around $250,000, that's a really good number. So I remember about halfway through my first year, I was like, you know what, I'll even though 90% of my business is my sphere, I'll try the online lead thing. We'll just see how this goes. So I called up realtor.com when they were running a promo and signed up for some online leads. Not really expecting a whole lot to come out of it, but I got a lead that I totally thought was a scam at first. And isn't that always how the best ones go? Like, you're like, there's no way this is real. This is a fake person. They're not serious about buying this house. And it was a young woman who had inquired about a $2.7 million property. And I reached out to her, immediately called her. I picked up the phone so fast when I saw that lead come through. And she was real closed off, not really giving me a whole lot of information at first, which I was like, that's okay. I'm a total stranger. We've never met before. I wouldn't expect anything less. But I ended up closing that deal and turning around and listing her $1.9 million house that she needed to sell. That went multiple offers and under contract in 24 hours in one of the most prestigious areas of Oklahoma City. So I blew myself out of the water with the expectations of my first year, because that was the last thing I expected. And then my mentor at EXP, Will Higgins, was like, well, you're a luxury agent now, so you need to go sign up to be a part of EXP luxury. And that's exactly what I did. So within my first year, I was a luxury agent by all standards. And that just blew my mind that I was able to achieve that. But that's what hard work does, you know?
And congratulations and welcome to luxury real estate. Obviously, you were given an opportunity and you knocked it out of the park, and that's something to be very proud of. So when you were going through all of this, did you have a mentor or a support system that helped you navigate through all of it?
Yes. Oh my goodness, yes. That's so crucial when you are first starting in the industry. I do have a mentor who was part of, my brokerage transferring over to EXP. Will Higgins took me under his wing when I first came on and has just given me so much insight, assistance. Every time I call, he's there picking up the phone. And then also one of my good friends who actually owns the EXP branch office here in Edmond, Cindy Keithley, she's my work wife. That's just what we call each other. And we do everything together. And she was such a huge support for me in my first year, and all the questions and second guessing. And on the days where it was really hard, I had someone to call and vent to or get advice from, because when you're a first time agent within your first year of real estate and you are working a luxury deal in one of the most competitive luxury neighborhoods in the state, that imposter syndrome really starts to creep up on you. So to have a constant sounding board and to have two individuals who just are so ready, willing, and able to pour into you with everything you're going through was so crucial. And then also my broker that encouraged me to get my real estate license, every time I call, he picks up on the first or the second ring, which is just so amazing. And he's actually our branch broker for our office. So he is always right there, ready to cheer me on and also listen to my questions.
That is great. And I'm sure you had many challenges that you were calling your work wife and all these other folks to help you with. Do you remember a couple of them that were your biggest challenges and sort of how you overcame those and what you did?
Yeah. Off the top of my head, something I really struggled with within my first year wasn't necessarily the deals that I was working. Yeah, I would have a deal bust, and yeah, I would have a difficult buyer or seller. But really, the biggest struggle that I found trying to overcome was in the world of real estate. If you follow any realtors on social media, you are seeing, I just closed this big sale, or I just got this big team to, join my brokerage, or I just bought a brand new luxury vehicle, or look at this, or look at this, or look at this. And it just always felt like I had to constantly be achieving to be noticed. And I had to constantly be at the top of my game. And so honestly, my biggest hurdle that I overcame in my first year of real estate was that imposter syndrome of, did I do enough work to deserve this? Why am I not to that individual's level yet? How can I continue to keep getting better and better and better? And I wasn't seeing or experiencing enough vulnerability to feel like I could openly share, I'm having a hard time right now. I felt like I always had to be like, the market's not that great, but you know what? I made 20 cold calls this week and I posted to Instagram 5 times. Like, it always had to be constantly doing something. And I burned myself out. And so the second year of real estate for me was recovering from that burnout and telling myself, you know what? If I sold one house this year, I sold one house. That's good enough for me. And I don't have to live by anybody else's standards than my own. As long as my bills are paid, I need to allow myself to take a break. I need to allow myself to Sabbath, and I need to allow myself to recuperate, or I'm going to continue to burn myself out. And then I'm not going to be of any service to anybody. And so that was definitely my biggest hurdle, was just not falling victim to the imposter syndrome, falling into that comparison trap and refueling myself after a burnout.
It's hard to sit here and listen to you talk about having imposter syndrome when you had the success you did. I mean, it sounds like out of the gate you beat your expectations. Why do you think that happened so quickly for you?
I think for me, it is because I am someone with the personality and the mindset of I have to constantly be achieving. And remember that perfectionism that I talked about
Hmm.
earlier?
Oh yeah. Hmm.
Yeah, constantly battling that. And the need for other people's approval to feel like I'm worth something or did something that was worthwhile. And, last year compared to this year being an election year, my second year being an election year, that's hard. And I talk to a lot of new agents. I'm a mentor with EXP because I got mentorship. So I'm like, I'm going to pour into others, give back what I've been given. And it's hard to listen to these new agents come into the game and just feel like they're not prepared. They don't know where to start, what they should do. And even if I'm giving them all the tools and nothing's still happening, I just think that's such a common occurrence in our industry. And I think it's something that every single agent struggles with, imposter syndrome, male or female. I think everyone struggles with it, but it's just not something that's too often talked about. And it's something that's dealt with behind closed doors. And I actually think it's a lot more beautiful and a lot more vulnerable to be honest about that, because you never know what other agent may be going through something very similar that can relate to you, and you guys can lean on each other. It takes a village, and I don't think any agent should be going it alone. Every single agent should have somebody that they can lean on for support. And if you're not getting that, then it may be time to look around and find someone to do that with.
Oh, completely. It's so true. And the way that education is structured, it teaches you how not to break the law, but it doesn't teach you how to change your life and operate as a, you know, independent person who's starting a business and running it. And so it completely makes sense that you and everyone else would feel like imposters because, you don't come out as well trained as you would like. Maybe
Yeah.
like as a lawyer, you know how to practice law when you get out, but uh, it's different in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier that you reached out to your network. Like that's how you got started. How did you build or rebuild those relationships with your clients?
Yeah. So with 90% of my business being my sphere of influence, I really just dove right in. I started calling people. I used the Ford script, which stands for family, occupation, recreational, and dreams. So when I very first started, I was calling people and going, "Hey, I got my real estate license. Do you want to buy or sell a house?" And people would get off of the phone so fast. They're like, "I already get telemarketing calls every day. Please don't start doing this to me." So I learned the Ford script, and I just started calling people and genuinely asking them, "How are you doing? How's work? How's your kids? I saw that you guys just announced that you're pregnant. That's amazing. What, like, just genuine, natural, personable conversation." And that went so much further than me calling and just trying to sell myself. Because naturally, in every single conversation, when you ask someone how they're doing, how's work, how's the family, they turn around and ask you the same thing. It's ingrained in us. We just naturally do it to be polite. And so when people would ask, "I'm doing well, how's work for you? How's real estate?" Naturally that conversation would come up to where they're the ones bringing it up, not me. And I would just tell them, "It's been really great. Things have been going well, and I've really enjoyed doing it. I actually just got to close a client last week, or I just got a first-time home buyer under contract, or I'm teaching this first-time home buyer class," and so on and so forth. Just natural conversation, not salesy. And 9 times out of 10, they would ask, "How's the real estate market?" And we would get to have that question. And I have people come up to me at church on Sundays going, "We kind of been thinking about downsizing, but we're not sure." Like, I'm just existing and people are asking me these questions because they know I'm a safe person to ask it to. You have to build a certain level of trust. And you can't build trust by right out the gate just talking about real estate. You have to ask people how they are. When people genuinely feel like you care, and you should genuinely care about the clients that you are working with, then it just takes off from there. And you can have those realistic conversations about expectations, pricing. You want to sell your house, here's what it looks like, because they know you well enough to know that they can trust you. And that's why I prefer to work with my sphere versus online leads or for sale by owners or probate. I'll do all that stuff, but really my sphere is where I really enjoy the most. And because of that, I've gotten referrals from past clients, and I do the top 50 method. So I have my top 50 people that I've done business with or have referred me business, and I nurtured those top 50. And from that top 50 comes the fruit, comes everything else. And so that's just what I love doing. I love to work with people who love to work with me and trust me. And that really just was my entire, minus I think like 3 or 4 deals last year. It was all my sphere, which was just such a joy because I got to see my friends and friends of friends become owners or sell their home or move into the next stage of life.
No, completely. That's awesome. And caring, I think it really shows. And so it sounds like you take a really caring approach.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any stories, interesting client interactions that stand out to you?
Oh man, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, truly, on that luxury deal, that's kind of one of I still joke with my client about it to this day, because at first she thought I was the listing agent, because when buyers inquire through realtor.com, they don't realize they're being connected to a buyer's agent, and they put in really small print on the listing online the listing agent's name and phone number. And she was being very closed off with me at first. Like, I asked her, about financing, how she was planning on purchasing the home. And she was like, I'll tell you that when I feel like it's important. And then finally, the second time we looked at the house, her father was with us. And he was even being like, kind of like stiff arming me a little bit. And finally, I just stopped and I said, guys, you do realize that I am on your side here, right? And they're like, you are? And I was like, yes. And so then they told me that they wanted to submit an offer, which I had told them I was a buyer's agent. I just think she forgot. I had told them I was a buyer's agent. She was like, I want to submit an offer. My attorney will be reaching out to you. So she was working through an attorney, which is a first-time agent. That is a very intimidating. I was like, oh gosh, I have this high-end client who has an attorney draft everything up. My nerves are everywhere. So the attorney's assistant reaches out to me and is reading me their offer. And I was like, wait, you guys know that you're paying me to do this for you, correct? And they were like, wait, what? And I was like, I'm the buyer's agent. And so the assistant goes, I'll call you back. Hangs up the phone, talks to her client. And after that, it was so funny because it was like, once she knew I was on her side and I was there to help, it was smooth sailing from there. And about halfway through the transaction, she goes, Sydney, you know that we're friends now, right? And I was like, yeah, I know we're friends now. And we actually get lunch, we get coffee, we catch up, we stay in each other's, lives. And it was just such a funny experience because I was so intimidated because it seemed like the last thing they wanted to do was work with me, but it was all over a miscommunication and a misunderstanding, and then it ended up being what it was, so.
Yeah, totally understandable though. It's a big transaction. Buying real estate it can be intimidating.
Yes.
So you kind of talked about getting out there, going really hard, getting a little burnout, maybe pulling back some. So you've had this roller coaster.
Mm-hmm.
What are you thinking? Like, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Man, in the next 5 years, I love doing real estate and I will never stop doing real estate. But I've really found a passion and a calling within the real estate industry to connect entrepreneurs with better self-care and better self-help and taking care of ourselves. Because if you look at the statistics of entrepreneurs, specifically realtors, we're almost number one for anxiety, almost number one for depression, Drug and alcohol abuse is a really big part of it. Divorce is a part of it. Poor physical health is a part of it. And so I really have a passion for, while I'm continuing to sell real estate and help the public, which I love doing, to create a space and create curriculum and create an outlet for individuals who lead their business through faith to connect those two things together. Because a lot of the times as individuals, our business can become our idol. And for me personally, like, Jesus Christ is first in my life. He's the reason why I'm here. And so I want to create a space for entrepreneurs to really bring faith into their business in a more conventional way, because anybody who is a believer and also a business owner, that is a constant tug of war back and forth of control and surrender, control and surrender. So I want to create a space where that can be talked about, and individuals who that is their personal belief can have a safe space to talk about that and do that, because it is a constant war to marry both of those together.
No, that's a lofty goal, and I'm excited to see you accomplish that. It seems like you're accomplishing everything else you set yourself out to. So I'm sure you're going to get there too. Do you have any tips or tricks for aspiring real estate agents that you want to share?
Yeah, if you are a first-time agent, utilize your sphere. Do open houses, do all the things that everybody tells you to do, but first and foremost, make sure you're doing them in a way that you can measure. I think a lot of times as new agents, they do the shotgun approach where they just like shoot 15 million different ways, which is good. You want to experience a little bit of everything, but pick one thing, try it out for a month, see where that gets you. And if you're not seeing what you would like to see, kind of start to shift a little on to the next thing. But also mentorship, community, pair yourself with like-minded people. And also outside of that, I always encourage new agents to start with your sphere. It's free leads. It's people you know. It's people that know you. That should be the easiest phone call to pick up and make. If you want to talk to a complete stranger versus your, aunt that knows you and has known you your whole life, that's totally fine. If you feel more comfortable working with a complete stranger than people you know, I know agents that refuse to work with friends and family, and that's okay. But that's my area. And then also, once you feel like you are comfortable enough to do something like this, find a way to do a first-time homebuyer class. I took a first-time homebuyer class to the sober living that gave me my life back, and it actually went so well that they wrote it into the curriculum that you have to attend that class in order to graduate, which was a huge
Wow.
thing. So me and my lender that has such a huge heart for this ministry partnered with me on it, and we take a first-time homebuyer class once a quarter. And once you do it once, you're going to have it so down that that's easy. And so I actually did a training with our office how to do a first-time homebuyer class. I was like, here's my Canva presentation, copy it, make it your own. And a lot of people were like, well, who do I take this to? I'm like, well, you can just take it to the general public, put an Eventbrite out there, see what happens. Find a lender to partner with, a home inspector, or a title company, whoever it may be. Like, as first-time agents, money's tight. Find someone to partner with you. It doesn't have to cost money. All you need is a space and the technological aspect to do your presentation. But outside of that, if you have, if you're military, take it to, a military base next to you. If you have a past in the service industry, message all of your previous coworkers and see if they would be interested in attending something like that. 9 times out of 10, people are always wanting to know what's going on with the real estate market, especially individuals who are currently renting and haven't purchased yet. And the news media is so loud when it comes to interest rates and the real estate industry. Whew, we experienced that hardcore this year. So I always encourage people, bring value and bring enlightenment to let people know what the real estate market is really like, because they're typically reporting on a national level, not a state level, not a city level, and every single state is going to be different.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I was going to say, like, phenomenal tips and thoughtfulness and setting goals. Like, very, very impressive, and appreciate you being candid and vulnerable and sharing your story, so that others will learn and benefit. We're going to go into the lightning round, but before we do that, I do want to ask you to talk a little bit about the things you've done to lead teams within your organization. You've gotten involved in some leadership, you've gotten involved in the community. Can you talk about some of those things real quick?
Yeah, absolutely. I love to talk about this because it always gets me so excited.
Good.
So within eXp Realty, we have, because we are all one brokerage, we're not brick and mortar, we're not franchised out. So we are all one company. So one thing that eXp did to help create some community within the company, where we weren't so much operating in, silos like some people may think, but really having agents having a say in what goes on the state level, and being able to contribute to more the corporate aspect of eXp. Was eXp launched what's called state agent advisory councils, and my work wife was the chair of it. And so she was like, you were just so built for this, like you need to apply to be on it and do the interview. And then my state broker had also reached out to me, Regina, and was like, you need to do this. And so I was like, okay, cool. So I did the interview, did the application process. And so I serve as the co-chair for our state agent advisory council that really just helps us mend that bridge between the giant presence that eXp is and the voices of agents within our state. And then I also this will actually be my last week doing it. I'm kind of sad, but with the Edmond Board of Realtors, which is my local board that I'm a part of, we have the Edmond Leaders of Tomorrow Accelerate track. So I applied to be a part of that. And that has just been so wonderful. We've gotten to sit with, city leaders, our president of Oklahoma Association of Realtors. I've really just gotten to connect with individuals that I never would have had the opportunity to connect with, and then learn how to be a leader within our local board as well. And then I also am a part of eXp Young Professionals. I'm the Oklahoma State leader for EXPYP in Oklahoma. And that is my jam. I love that so much. Like, I am so passionate about young professionals, specifically within the real estate industry, because there's a lot of agents that I have come across that will say, well, I've been doing this for this many years and this is how it's done. And while that may be true, that doesn't necessarily mean that's the right way to do it and the ethical way to do it. And so agents, when you're young, I know some agents that get started in this industry when they're 18, right out the gate. And I commend you for doing that. I'm 27. And so there's been obstacles to overcome simply just because of my age. If I was 45 years old and I got my real estate license for the first time, I'm not going to be looked at the same as, 18 to 30-year-old getting their real estate license for the first time. And so really we're the next generation, and we're paving the way for what the real estate industry is going to look like in 10, 20, 30 years. And I'm really passionate about that, because the things that we may have had as hurdles to overcome, we don't want the generation behind us having to deal with those same hurdles. We want to create a collaborative over a competitive real estate industry.
Go, go, go. Like, I love it. That is wonderful. You're pulling people together. You're making things happen. Like, so, so awesome. That's fantastic. We're going to jump into a quick lightning round. Just have some fun. Doesn't have to be real estate specific, but certainly can be. I'm going to start with, what's one book you've read that you'd recommend for the audience?
Oh, Leadership Pain. 100% Leadership Pain. That book is so fantastic. It goes through the struggles of being a leader. It doesn't matter what industry you're in, but that book is fantastic. And then I'm going to add another one, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. If you are wanting to be a business owner or be successful in anything that you do, I highly recommend that book. It's a lot to chew on, take it off in bits, but so many nuggets in that one.
Yeah, those great, great, great. If we had a time machine and you could go back to the day that you started this journey, what advice would you give yourself?
Set boundaries. Set
Fair.
boundaries with people. You don't have to do and be everything to everybody. It's okay to put your phone down after 8 p.m. Nothing good happens after 8 p.m. anyway. So it's okay to wait to respond to that text or phone call until the next morning.
Good advice for sure. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, wow. I would have to say my dad. You know, he's been gone for, 9 years now. And just to be able to sit with him as me today and not 18-year-old me and talk about where I've come in life so far, like that's really who I'd want to sit and have dinner with.
And I can guarantee you he's awfully proud.
Oh, thank
Awfully
you.
proud. Yeah. Tell me about your workday yesterday.
My work day yesterday. Well, I went to church, I came home, and Sundays are my Sabbath. So I think I answered 2 work calls and then I put everything else on mute because I have to have a day just for me. And that's important to take time for yourself. This is a 24/7, 365-day-a-year business. There's no breaks. There's no PTO. There's none of that. So I take Sundays to relax and be with myself and get things done. If something is important or something is, an emergency, I'm absolutely still there. But I take Sundays to sit and be with myself and take care of me.
I love that you said that. Discipline is so important in real estate, and it's discipline to get things done and work through your list, but also the discipline to take care of yourself and preserve some of that time. I think that's an important lesson. I'm glad you pointed it out.
Mm-hmm.
Where can listeners connect with you, view what you're doing, sort of follow your journey?
Yeah. So Instagram is definitely the social media platform in which I am most presently on. And I also have a link tree in there where anybody who, wants to chat with me more can connect with me, or I have a Calendly link on there as well if you just want to set up some one-on-one time. But my Instagram handle is Miss Oklahoma City. So it's ms.Oklahoma City. And you can find me there. And if you have any questions or want to talk about anything we talked about on here today, I'm happy to connect.
Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to Unlocking Real Estate, My First Commission. We hope today's stories and insights inspired you to take that next step in your real estate journey. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode, or head over to our channel to see some of the other content we've produced. We'd also love to hear from you. Drop a comment below with your biggest takeaway or a question for our next guest. If you have a recommendation for someone we should interview, please send a note to UnlockingRealEstate@ColibriRealEstate.com.